My name is Ben. I'm a person in long-term recovery from addiction. I've learned to build guitars in my recovery. I've learned a lot about myself as well. I set out on a journey to meet with people across the country who have also escaped the grips of addiction. I've met some amazing people. And one thing is clear. We are all connected by a string of hope.
I grew up in Seattle, Washington. Kind of migrated to Cincinnati, Ohio for a girl. Not you.
Newsflash, not me.
I met Caitlin a week after I had been here. She was celebrating her 2 years clean. We kind of hit it off right away, just kind of joking back and forth. There was a guy that was peddling chocolate.
And by guy, he means like a
11-year-old
kid.
He was peddling chocolate and basically challenging me to like flirt with you and buy you chocolate. And I told him it was past his bedtime and to go home. I wasn't trying to sleep with Caitlin, but I was trying to hang out with Caitlin quite a bit. And she wasn't quite getting the hint that like, oh, this dude might like me a little bit. And we were kind of just friends for like a year, right?
Yeah.
What were you busy doing?
Whatever I did.
And we got to the point, you moved to Florida. I stayed here, kind of decided to put down roots, even though this other girl didn't work out. I've made a commitment to like stick around this area of the world. Caitlin was in Florida. Her sister was getting married, and her mom said, hey, why don't you invite that Jeff guy to your sister's wedding? And she was like, well, I don't know. But she did. And I was able to sneakily get our first kiss on camera in the photo booth at your sister's wedding.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And
the rest is history.
the rest is kind of history. What, we got married a year
and 3 months later.
I asked her to marry me a year later, like exactly to the day.
No, a year and a day.
A year and a day, 366 days. And then we got married 3 months later. And we got engaged. I was like, we're not going to rush to anything. And she was like, yes, I totally agree. And then she bought a dress a week later. And I was like, well, I guess we're off to the races, right?
I had so much, I guess I would say trauma from using that I didn't understand what love looked like. Even at 2 years clean, I still didn't understand that somebody could show interest in me without trying to sleep with me. So when like those things didn't happen, I was like, oh, I guess we're just gonna be friends. It is what it is. And so that was kind of like my first experience clean, even where a man, someone of the opposite sex, respected me enough to not do all these things that had caused so much damage to me, from when I was using. But I would say, like, just thinking about, I guess, kind of what even brought me to that point, because there's like very clear, like, chapters of my life that I can like kind of boil down, and so like what got me to the point of even deciding that I needed to get clean. Well, I guess I didn't really decide.
Mm-hmm.
The state of Ohio kind of decided for me.
Both of us, the Department of Corrections is exactly what made us decide, like, okay, I'll fall in line.
So for me, the end of the road kind of looked like, that Groundhog Day, every single day when you wake up and you're finding the ways and means to get one more, whether that means sleeping with your dope dealer, selling your body on the side of the street. I was even a college-educated woman. I had a bachelor's degree in accounting from Miami University in Oxford, and somehow I'm walking down the street from Middletown, getting in some random man's truck to go sleep with him for $20 so that I can just go get well. And so like that's what the last few years of my use looked like, and I wish I could say I did that one time and then...
I do too.
Oh, you've gotten some strange man's truck
No.
and slept with him for $20? Finally, I remember I got arrested for the, I think, third time, and it was pretty serious charges. I was arrested on a few felonies, including stealing from my parents. And I remember, like, I can look at these instances of insanity in my addiction when, like, it's just very clear how self-centered I was. And so I was sitting in the back of a cop car, handcuffed, waiting while they were searching my parents' car. And, I look up, I had like nodded out a little bit in the back, and I looked up and my window was down a little bit, and my dad was standing outside the cop car just screaming at me, and my mom was standing there bawling. In my head, I couldn't even grasp the fact that like these two people are here because they cared about me. And so I had the audacity to tell the cop at the front seat to kindly roll the window up because like I just didn't even have time for that. When in reality, all my parents wanted to do was like help me, but I was just unwilling to accept any of that help. And today, I'm so grateful that they like pressed those charges on me, like the fraud and the stealing from them and stuff, because it kind of got me the ball rolling at least to my path to recovery. It took about another year after that to finally say, okay, like, I'm done. Something happened, and for me, I know that it's a higher power thing. I know for me that, not that God was doing something in favor of me, but kind of just like, almost maybe just giving me another opportunity. My judge decided not to send me to prison, and he sent me to inpatient treatment instead. And that was the last day that I used, which was, so my clean date is September 17th of 2013. And I have not found a reason to pick up since. It doesn't mean I haven't thought about plenty of reasons or tried to give myself a reason, but I've continued every day not to do so.
And I felt so uncomfortable for so long to say like, hey, I'm Jeffrey, I'm an addict, and I came from like virtually a perfect home. That leads into like, so I did like grew up in a very good home and like full of love and compassion, and went to a private Christian high school, and like graduated high school, knew I wasn't going to go to college, and kind of partied a little bit on and off, like just smoking pot and drinking. I remember there had been like problems with my dad's legs for a little bit, or like his arm, and like he would wake up and his leg would be hurting, and then it would hurt for a few days, like he couldn't go to work, which wasn't like him. And then like getting the call from my mom and her saying like, hey, your dad's blood test came back and he has pancreatic cancer. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I think that was probably the most I ever cried in the whole situation, because from like 20 minutes later after finding out that news, my best friend at the time like handed me an E-tab and was like, hey dude, you don't have to feel this right now. Like all it took for me was that one time with ecstasy, and I was off to the races for the next 14, 15 years. Like just remember the feeling of like losing my Superman in my life. You know, you see kids like want to dress up as Iron Man or Superman or Batman for Halloween. Like Halloween would come around and I would want a tool belt and I would want a hard hat, because my superhero was my dad. And it was so hard to see. And being that I started using right away when I found out, like it's hard now because of how easy it was at that point. Because I didn't feel any of it. And it was only 6 months after we found out that he had pancreatic cancer that it took him. And that could have been good memories in my life of like the last times interacting with him. And it's painful to me because they weren't. Like I was out running around and partying, and I remember the moments, but there wasn't like this huge impact because of how numb I was because of my drug use. The best memory I'll ever have of my father was during that 6 months though. And my dad was always like, hey, I'm not your buddy, I'm not your bro, don't call me dude, right?
I tell you that all the time,
You
don't
do.
call me dude.
But I came in the house, I was just like stopping by after work, and he was like, is that Jeff? And my mom or somebody was like, yeah, it's Jeff. And he was like, come here, dude. And like, that's a really... It's such a simple memory, but it's a really good memory for me. Like, come here, dude. Okay. Like, I probably laughed and was like, I'm not your dude. You know? That's the only trauma I've ever known about my life. That 6 months, and it didn't even take him dying to like bring me to my knees and like completely make me turn off and say, just F life, man. Like, this isn't what I want to do. It was like, it was the initial like pinch, right? It was just that little bit of pain that made me like go like, nope, I'm not going to feel any of this. And then I was in a car accident and hurt my back pretty badly. Never was prescribed like anything to help, but started using Oxycontin. From that point, for the next 3 years, battling Oxycontin was literally, like you say, Groundhog's Day. I think I went to treatment in 2005, and I was up to 880s a day. I was smoking 880s a day, had spent my entire like Roth IRA that my parents had put away for me for like college or to buy a house. But when I got out of treatment, like swore I'll never do Oxycontin again, and I found meth about a week later. And the next 9 years of my life are a complete blur. I intravenously used methamphetamine the last 3 years of my addiction. And there's so many horror stories during that time, but like you, the same way, Department of Corrections in Washington State, like are finally what was, you know, like snapped me out of it. I mean, I battled homelessness. I had never been homeless in my life. During the last period of that 3 years, I was homeless, like me, Kilo, one of my dogs, in a truck. Oh man, it was just an ugly time. And I remember just when the judge said, hey, you have a bed date. You know, I felt like I could breathe. But then like finding the 12-step program, you know, while I was in treatment, and like eyes just being wide open to like, oh my gosh. Like I finally feel like comfortable around this group of people for nothing else than what they're trying to do in their life, and like how attractive that was to me at that point in time, you know?
I think that attraction is so important, like, because for me, when I was at the end and, you know, I was out on probation or whatever, and I like just couldn't stop using, and I remember the very like last time that I woke up in that just that feeling of like, it would just be much easier to die right now than it would be to try to get high again today. And just like being angry that I woke up and being just in that complete place of just absolute desperation they talk about. But it is 100% a gift, the gift of desperation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we are the way that we are today, is because I know how important it was for me, and so I like to be able to give that back to people, and like the way that we live so transparently. And we share our struggles, whether
outside of the, I mean,
yeah, it's not even just in 12 steps, just in life. And I think that has a lot to do with how what we have now has started. You know, it took a lot to get to where, even just to the 2 years when I met you, you know, it took a lot of step work and like super introspective, like taking a look at myself and what is it about me that I so badly feel I need to change, or that I for so long needed to, like when your friend said, here, you don't have to feel this, like that's just the epitome of addiction. So once we like started dating and stuff, and I was still writing about, you know, recovery and stuff, and we had visited his family out in Seattle, and his sister.
It was so hard to decide to take you to Seattle that first time.
Why?
It was just so hard. I was like, I don't know if I take.
Am I not worthy?
No, but it was like, if I like take this girl I'm dating to Seattle, like here's the thought process, like every backup plan that was in Seattle was done for. You know what I mean? Like every opportunity for me to bail on Cincinnati, to like get uncomfortable enough in Cincinnati and know that I could go back home. Like I knew that.
To any slew of girls.
Yeah, no, like really, that was like, for me, that was a decision, like just taking you home to visit, to meet my family, was my decision to X out any other opportunity in my life. That was so stressful.
Joining the neck and body of a guitar is hard work. It can be frustrating. It can even be scary at times. Everything you've done up to this point can be lost with one mistake. With the right planning, preparation, and patience, it can make this daunting task seem like a walk in the park. When the bond is made, nothing short of magic happens. The two will go on to create music together, as if they were never separate in the first place. Soulmates, and a divine tale being told one note, one song, one melody at a time.
Relationship that I had known, and it was only a few because they were long term because of how manipulative I was getting them to stick around with me, but it was so up and down. It would either be at 100 or at 0. Caitlin and I start dating, and it's just this like calm wave, and it's like am I really feeling anything at all?
Right.
Is this what love is supposed to feel like? Like, is the ease of this relationship what I really want for the rest of my life? Because I'm so used to this drastic passion and then, like this chaos, this back and forth. So I broke up with her. I was like, listen, I'm scared of this. I don't know what this is. I don't think I'm feeling anything at all for you. And that was, it only took a week to figure it out.
That I was really the...
Yeah, I think that was the first time where I really like sat back and prayed and listened. It was like, God, like give me some kind of sign, like what I need to do right now. And literally, I felt physically ill for the next 4 days while you were out traipsing around. I felt physically ill with myself, and I texted Lizzie. I texted your sister, and I said, hey, I think I made a mistake. And she was like, why are you telling me?
Idiot.
Like, you should probably text my sister if that's what you want to tell her.
I think we finally just got to a healthy place. Or I finally got to a healthy place. And so when the relationship, like when we started dating, and it wasn't the extreme fireworks and craziness that we were used to, it felt very weird. Mm-hmm. But I still think sometimes I still will stir up a little chaos because like I just need that, that addict side of me, I guess. But I think that's really just human nature.
We both very much have a side of us that could watch the world burn.
Sure.
And that's
and then together, can you imagine?
Oh man, burn it to the ground.
But I think that the healthiness of it was scary, but learning that is in reality what I want. That's what I look for in a father of my child. I don't want our children to see extreme fights and throwing stuff and hitting each other and that kind of stuff. Even if that feels like what that passion is, and like, the steady and slow burning fire that we have is much better than...
You don't want to like introduce that into our parenting plan?
I don't think that's a good idea.
No.
So we ended up going to Seattle. His sister and I and Jeffrey are sitting at the kitchen table. We were staying at her house, and she had said just something about like, have you thought about starting a blog? And I was like, well, no, I just share what I share, and people can unfollow me if it's annoying.
Right.
And she had just been like, it would be a really good idea if like you put together your recovery stuff and your dog stuff. And I was like being 100% super sarcastic, and I said, what am I gonna call it? Like dogs and other unsolicited advice? And her and Jeffrey both looked at me like, yes, that's absolutely what you're gonna call it. And I remember dragging my feet a little bit about it, and then I was finally like, whatever, dude, like I'll start it, and if anyone wants to read it, they can read it, and if they don't want to, they don't have to.
Right.
And then now, here we are, 2.5 years later, and we have 510,000 followers. And it still shocks me and blows my mind that people want to, hear our story, like join in and follow along on our journey, but I think the biggest part of it is because we live so transparently. We are 100% open about our past, our present, and like where it is that we're trying to go. And when I first started doing it, I did it out of a passion. I never...
Just dogs.
Yeah, like it's funny to share funny videos of our dogs, and that's a huge part of our story too. When we first, got together, he had 2 dogs and I had 2 dogs. And then when we thought about moving in together, it was really tough to integrate our packs. And there was a time where we were both willing to walk away from each other because...
I remember the conversation.
Yeah.
It was just like,
it is what it
hey,
is.
I don't think this is gonna work.
Yeah. Because we couldn't get our dogs to get along, and it was like, because we had, we have experienced what it feels like to not be wanted and to be thrown away and discarded and thought of as not worthy enough to hold on to from when we were using. And we had made these commitments to our dogs that we were going to see through to those commitments. And I wasn't going to let my little, whatever.
Some fling.
some fling be the reason that goes off, the train tracks.
I think either one of us being willing to walk away from our dogs would have completely turned the other one off anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe,
then it would have been like, oh.
Maybe you're not the person I thought you were.
I don't want you
anyways.
anyway.
Right. That was our test. Like, me or the dog.
Right.
And we were both like the dogs, and we were like, oh, I love you. Really?
And then that gave us the
well, then we wanted to fight. We
Yeah.
wanted to fight for our dogs getting along
Yeah.
more at that point.
Yeah. And
Because
so,
we
like,
were
we
very
did what it took.
lackadaisical about it.
You were very lackadaisical
Whatever.
about it.
You're-
Then we did what it took to get the dogs to get along.
You're
And
such
do
a
they
piece of crap.
love each other every single day now?
No.
No. We still have scuffles and stuff, but we now live together as a pack. And
It's pretty harmonious.
yeah, more often than not.
Yeah.
And now they're superstars on the internet. And sometimes I think I'm obnoxiously open about my life.
Sure.
I just feel like things aren't talked about enough, and like things happen when we're clean that we have to like continue to stay clean through, but like that doesn't mean that like bad things don't happen or like we don't have immense feelings of pain or grief or guilt. And for me, the biggest one being clean was us deciding that we were going to start a family, and then relatively quickly getting pregnant, losing that first one. And for me, that was a really hard thing to go through, and I isolated, and I didn't choose to probably share about it as I should have. It was one of those things that like, while I shared about it on my page, the amount of women that reached out to me like, hey, this is something I've experienced, that was super helpful, literally just in knowing that I'm not alone. But I still sat with those feelings, and I struggled for probably 6 months with that. And then we got pregnant again, and then very quickly lost that one again. And it was just like, that time I had the experience of knowing that I could choose how I wanted to react and respond to it. And while I was still absolutely devastated, it was just, I didn't want to feel the way that I had been for that like last 6 months or whatever. But I think in me being so open about the fact that this has happened, so many other women, like I said, have reached out to me and been like, hey, this is something that I can't write in the public comments on your page because my family doesn't know that I've been through this, and like I don't have the ability to be that open about it.
It's very sad.
It is. It's so sad because it's like I'll share whatever. For me, like that's the solution. Like if I can't be open with the people that are around me and in my life, like what's the point? I'm not perfect. I'm never gonna try to be perfect. Like if I can't share like my real life struggles while they're happening, what's the point? So often we like wait until we get to the other side of things before we share this big, whatever life lesson that we learned. But I just feel like it's so important to share those things like as we're going through them. And then, finally again, a month after that second loss, we got pregnant again, and I had so much fear behind that. And probably for the first 12 weeks, I couldn't even like celebrate it or be happy. Not that I wasn't happy about it, but I was just so scared that we were going to lose it again that I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to, you know, I just, it was scary.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how to really explain it.
You were, I mean, I think, you know, there was a good bit of time there where you were paralyzed by the fear of it. I mean, just unable to feel joy in the fact. I think I was more excited in the first 12 weeks.
I remember we went to the doctor and I was so nervous, like my heart was beating out of my chest for one of the early ultrasounds, and I was like, aren't you nervous? And he was like, no, like I just choose to believe that this pregnancy is healthy and, you know, it's different from the other ones. And I was just like,
you jerk.
What? Who does that? How can he do that? But I mean, it's so true. Like, it is a choice. And after like our 12-week ultrasound, I started to feel a little bit better. But then I literally had to actively make the choice every single day to choose to celebrate, you know, every day of this pregnancy.
Right.
Whether we made it full term or not.
Right.
And so now being
29 weeks and 2 days.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Uh-huh.
We're never be. Can you believe that?
No.
I think when I look at like the moments of the small, tiny moments that mean so much to me, it's like, you know, there was a point in my life when my dad had written me off completely, and he was just ready to cut the cord essentially because I just could not get clean, and I was continuing to ravage my family and, you know, make things hard on my mom, and so he was just over it. He was done, and I feel like dads are really good at that. They have that tough love thing, and like that's absolutely 100% what I needed. So there was a time that I wasn't welcome in their house. There was a time that I couldn't have a key to their house, and now to today where, you know, and this is a silly story, but it means so much to me in the sense of just how things have changed. You know, we were on vacation last week visiting his family in Seattle for a baby shower, and I woke up and I had like my first pregnancy craving, and I wanted egg salad. And he's like, oh, well, we can go get it at this place. And I was like, no, I want my dad's egg salad. Like, that was the only thing that was gonna do. And so like I text my dad in the family chat, and I just told him because it was kind of funny. And then yesterday we went out to dinner with my parents, and my dad sent me home with a Tupperware of egg salad. And like, I don't know why I'm gonna cry about that. But it just goes to show like the extreme differences of like the relationships that we've had. From him not wanting me in his life or anyone in the family's life at all, to like now, like those little things that mean so much to me, and just like the love that he has for me. And 100% I know without a doubt that him and my mom are like my biggest fans, and I can only hope that I can give that sort of love and dedication to our own child.
Coming from a place, right? Hopeless, homeless, but really believing wholeheartedly that I would die with a needle hanging out of my own and be found by however it went, however that picture ended up being painted, like, but that I would die a junkie. Whatever, a freaking kid. Like what?
God trusts us with the kid.
Like what? That's, I mean, it's so crazy. Like we talk about getting clean and having a life beyond your wildest dreams. And really, I think for both of us, it's been like getting clean, and we've been able to have a life that we didn't even realize that we wanted.
A dream that we didn't even know.
Existed.
It wasn't even something we had ever dreamt.
Right.